Hello everyone, welcome to today's news charter. Let us start with a prelims practice question before getting into the most important topics which we'll be discussing today. The question which we'll be discussing today is shown here. It is a statement-based question. So in prelims, you have to discuss in a step-by-step manner. First, you have to analyze whether it is a statement-based question or normal question. So when it is a statement-based question, it is going to take a little time and you should be ready for that. And the second step is see whether they have asked the correct questions or incorrect question. So here they have asked how many of the above statements are incorrect. Three statements are given and how many of the above statements are incorrect. First one, it is about a scheme called remission of duties and taxes on exported products. You should have studied about this scheme because it is very important. It is one of the most important schemes because the finance minister and the prime minister also keeps discussing about this in several places. So remission of duties and taxes on exported products is a scheme that was introduced to improve India's exports. Three statements are provided. First one, it replaced the merchandise exports from India scheme, which was there earlier. This maize scheme was opposed a lot in WTO, and so the government brought in this RODTEP scheme. So this is a correct statement. Second one, RODTEP covers taxes, duties, levies at central, state, as well as local level, which is also a correct statement. Here you have to note that they cover the taxes in the local governance also. Third one, the rebates are issued in the form of transferable duty credit or electronic script, e-script. This is also a correct statement. So all three are correct. They have asked for how many of the above statements are incorrect. So none of the statements are incorrect. Colombo Security Conclave is a topic you should be studying very well this time because you can expect it in prelims. So from prelims point of view, this topic is important. What exactly is Colombo Security Conclave? The Colombo Security Conclave was an initiative of the Indian government to promote balance in the Indian Ocean region because in the recent times, the Chinese influence has been increasing a lot. So in 2011, Indian government started the Colombo Security Conclave. It was a trilateral maritime security conclave which started with India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives. Later, even Mauritius joined this group. Two countries are there which are the participating observer countries. They are Bangladesh and Seychelles. You should note down that also. It was based on five important pillars. What are all the five pillars? You have to note down very well. First one, it talks about maritime safety and security. Second, about terrorism and radicalization, how to counter them, trafficking and transnational organized crimes, cyber security, protection of critical infrastructure and technology, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. So why this topic is in news? The Colombo Security Conclave is in news in the recent times because one of the participants, that is Maldives, have not been very confident about the conclave. In the recent meeting, Maldives dropped out in the last minute. So the problem between India and Maldives in the recent times is because a new government was elected in Maldives, which is considered to be pro-China in nature, and they are a little skeptical about Indian involvement in Maldives. So it is the duty of India to sort out these problems. Such problems will always be there in any of the bilateral relationship. So it is for the government to take steps and try to resolve all the concerns of Maldives. By the end of the day, Maldives is a small country which is very close to India. We cannot change the geography. So both the countries have to understand this and try to come to a proper conclusion. Rupee ruble payment mechanism. So India in the recent time has been promoting its own currency for trade. So we all know that when it comes to international trade, generally countries utilize dollar. The problem with dollar is Indian currency's value in comparison with dollar is very less. So whenever we are exporting products and the transaction happens in dollars, we have to pay a lot of transaction cost, and then it is not much beneficial for us because Indian money's value is very less in comparison with dollar. And India is not a export oriented country. India is an import oriented country. So this is the reason India thinks that they have to do transactions in rupee. So India and Russia came up with an agreement called rupee ruble payment mechanism. So according to rupee ruble payment mechanism, if India and Russia are trading, the trade will happen in rupee and ruble, not in dollar. So they thought it will be beneficial for our economy. But the problem in rupee ruble payment mechanism is Russia imports more from India than India's import from Russia. So by the end, Russia is losing a lot of money. Because of this, Russia is also a little skeptical about this mechanism. But from UPSC point of view, we need to know what kind of process happens here. So how this is done? Let's consider two banks are there, one Indian bank and then another Russian bank. So this Indian bank will open a account in one of the Russian banks in Russia. The same way, Russian bank will open an account in India. This will be called as Vostro account. Vostro account means the account which a Indian bank is opening in Russia. So whatever trade will happen, if for example a Russian person is importing something from India, he will deposit the money in the Vostro account of India in the Russian bank. The same will happen here also. So this is how it is happening. So this is the basic story of it. However, what you should be knowing is why rupee ruble payment mechanism is not being very successful, because Russia's import from India is very high. Because of that, Russia is skeptical about it. This is the reason you should be knowing. IMF sovereign debt risk assessment. So this topic becomes extremely important for prelims examination. Recently, the International Monetary Fund released sovereign debt risk assessment, in which it has told that uh, there is a very high probability for India to exceed its debt level. So recently, the International Monetary Fund's sovereign debt risk assessment told that India's debt can go more than 100% in comparison to its GDP in the near future, because of which a lot of controversies happened. A lot of people started criticizing. But the government of India has very clearly told that even if IMF is telling that India's debt can exceed 100% of its gross domestic product, it is not a big problem, because all the debt we have, most of them is sovereign debt. It is not debt from outside of the country. Most of the debt are from inside the country. So we can easily deal with it. Other than this, one more point has to be considered. The IMF has also said that US, UK, and China are also in risk because their debt percentage can cross more than 100. They told that US's debt percentage can cross 160. China's debt percentage can cross 200. In comparison with these big economies, India's percentage is very less. So India doesn't have to worry about anything. This point you can use in your prelims exam. I mean, you can expect a sovereign debt risk assessment in prelims examination. It is given by IMF. In mains examination perspective, if you are getting a question on India's economic health, you can use this points. Right. So India's public debt to GDP ratio at the general government level has actually reduced in the recent times. In 2005 to 6, it was 81%. In 2021, it became 84%. In 2022, it again went down to 81%. Apart from all these things, IMF has also praised India for its inflation management. So these things should be considered. Such United Nations related bodies are extremely important. You need to know about them. What is United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees? The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee was established in the year 1950 after the Second World War, because during the Second World War, millions of people lost their homes. They were replaced from one place to another place. So there should be somebody to take care of the Repatriation of refugees. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees was established with headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. Other points which you should be knowing is UNHCR has won Nobel Prize twice. The chief legal document with which the UNHCR work is 1951 Refugee Convention. So this is important fact. Twice is very important. Headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland is very important. The patent organization is the United Nations General Assembly. It is the General Assembly which work as the parent organization of UNHCR. UNHCR gives the Nansen Refugee Award also annually. So what is this Nansen Refugee Award? The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee, in order to praise those people who have worked very well in the field of refugee protection, they give an award called as Nansen Refugee Award every year. So these points are very important for prelims examination. You can easily get a question on this. Some important points which you can use in your mains answers. The World Health Organization has recently declared that climate change is the greatest health threat in 21st century, because when climate change happens, in some places the temperature will increase a lot, in some places the temperature will decrease a lot. When temperature increases, it will result in growth of several microbacteria, viruses, etc., which will cause health problems. If the temperature decreases a lot, again human body is not conducive for very cold climatic condition, due to which health problems can happen. World Bank has recently estimated that climate change can drag more than 100 million people into poverty by 2030. This clearly shows how important tackling climate change is for well-being of the people. Main question of the day: examine India's scope of developing itself into a mass security provider of the Indian Ocean. So India has already implemented several steps. Indian Ocean Rim Association is there. SARC is there. A lot of BeamStack is there. Several such measures have already been taken. You have to mention all these measures. What step has been taken until now in this regards? So first part of the question asks about scope of India. So you can clearly tell India has a very high scope because of the economic growth, because of the security provisions which already we are providing, how many nuclear carriers we are having, our navy strength, strategic geography because of Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep. So all these points you can give, and then you can write the steps also. Some important points for prelims examination. What is Global Climate Risk Index? Global Climate Risk Index is given by an environmental think tank called as German Watch. So this point is extremely important for your prelims examination. Which organization German Watch is giving? It is a NGO. It analyzes the extent to which countries and regions have been affected by the impact of weather-related loss events. How much impact climate change can cause to a country. Mozambique and Zimbabwe, as well as Bahamas, are the most affected countries in 2019. India was ranked 7th. So this clearly shows that India is of a high risk when it comes to climate change. So these are all the points you should be noting down. They can easily ask a very good prelims question from this. So that will be all for today. Study well. Let's meet tomorrow.